next section will depend on this. Since piper is not a cutting or a slashing art, in other words, you're not cutting, you're not using or dependent on the knife edge. Piper is primarily concerned with just this, the first 3 inches of the tip. That is all we're going to need. Why we say that is because too much is spent on the knife, the design, and these things are quite expensive, which means that if you are involved in some kind of a knife altercation, this becomes evidence that if you choose to not hang around. And that is why you'll never see criminals here in South Africa running around with $200-300 knives. You don't see them do this. It's the cheapest knife, the Okapi being the absolute cheapest. Right, it costs about $8 for the knife. After they stab somebody with it, and then they'll just let it go. The knife breaks off, and they toss the rest of the knife. And that is exactly the reality of knifing. So these movements that it's going to be following will not be based on the construct of the knife. In other words, no edges are needed. So what I've done is to show you how the piper system translates into anything with a point. I'm going to use a fork, typical kitchen fork. So this is unconventional, but again, the fact that this wasn't designed by knife fighting grandmasters, from a knife fighting legacy, span generations. This was created by criminals and people intent on hurting others. Now, Lloyd will know this one, especially because he knows the fact that the criminals, especially in his area, used to tie this fork to the edge of a stick and then, chase somebody with it. So he'd be quite used to this by now. Again, all the movements in the piper system, just to go to the shimmering blade, knife twirling, and the stabbing, and you'll see exactly how this movement can be translated into the fork. Okay, so the idea is to just to show you that I will go for the same targets. Again, wow, this isn't a sharp object. It's sharp in its own right, but remember, I'm going to go for targets like the eye, throat, the whole neck region, and I could pierce flesh. Now, some of you might say that I won't be able to hit the heart and the lungs effectively. What you need to remember is I just need to pierce flesh. The movement, the amount of impact, because it's reverse grip, I can exert at least 2 to 3 times my body weight behind these blows. I can move faster, I can stab, it doesn't take much force to hit him in the throat. I could tear at his face. I could cover and hit exactly, I could hit these things and cause a flurry of movement. Again, this shimmering blade is what's powering the movement. Again, it's the 2 stabs, the overhead stab, the side stab. It's all we have. Right? If you want to really attack somebody, if you really want to hurt somebody, you need intent to power the move. That's why you see people do this. Because of the anger and the intent. It's not a dance. They're not cutting. This is not an exercise. If you want real intent, anything with a point, be it a pen, I could use the reverse part of the knife, of this fork, it would still cause a lot of damage because the movement is not dependent on the weapon. Impact is not dependent on the weapon. Cutting or piercing flesh is not dependent on the weapon. It's dependent on the amount of force I can generate with the wrist, with the shoulders, with the elbows. I go for the eyes, go for the throat. Okay, so that's very important. The piper system is not limited to knives, expensive knives. It's limited to anything that has a point.